Regional and Corporate Services Committee meeting of the Fraser Valley Regional District to order. Welcome, everybody. Hope you had a good Remembrance Day yesterday and were able to partake in some of the ceremonies, either in person or virtually. I'll call the meeting to order. The first item, please.
Thank you, Chair Law. I'm just looking for approval of the agenda, and late items.
So moved.
It's moved by Director Facio, second by Director Engar. Discussion, seeing none, all in favor. Opposed, if any, the item carries. Next item.
Item 3.1, we have a presentation by our WildSafe coordinator, Jocelyn Buchart, on the WildSafe BC activities for 2021.
Jocelyn, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Awesome, thank you. I'm just going to share my presentation. Just let me know if there are any problems. Okay, share. How does that look? Good.
Looks
okay.
Good. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. My name is Jocelyn, and I'm the Fraser Valley Coordinator for WildSafe BC. My position is seasonal, and it runs from approximately May to the end of November. Before I start, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that we are on the unceded and traditional lands of the Stalo First Nations people. In Maple Ridge, which is where I'm presenting from, this includes the Kwantlen and Katzie First Nations. My presentation today is an annual overview for the Fraser Valley Regional District for the WildSafe BC 2021 season. Today, I'll be discussing human-wildlife conflicts, what they are and how we address them, the Wildlife Alert Reporting Program, what it is and why it's useful, outreach activities I conduct, which include door-to-door canvassing and door hangers in areas of concern, garbage bin tagging in areas of concern, display booths, WildSafe Ranger program presentations for school-aged children, and other presentations, which include the wildlife awareness and safety presentation. I'll also be giving an overview regarding social media this season and going over my BC Goes Wild event. First, a little bit about WildSafe BC. WildSafe BC is the provincial leader in preventing conflict with wildlife through collaboration, education, and community solutions. It has evolved out of the highly successful Bearware program and is owned and delivered by the British Columbia Conservation Foundation. WildSafe BC provides information on how we can reduce human-wildlife conflicts in all aspects of our lives, including how we live, work, play, and grow. How we manage our living space has a great deal of influence on the amount of human-wildlife conflict we experience. While wildlife may need to pass through our living space, if we provide food, water, shelter, and space, they may linger too long near our homes, and this can lead to undesirable consequences both for us and for the animals. Wildlife attractants in and around our homes include garbage, compost, and recycling bins that are left outside or put out the night before curbside collection, fruit trees or fruit bushes that are not properly maintained, which means picking the fruit right when it's ripe, bird feeders or hummingbird feeders that are left out between April to November, as this is when wildlife are most active, pet food that is left outside, and barbecues that are not properly cleaned. WildSafe BC educates the community on how to manage these wildlife attractants. As seen in these charts, there appears to be a downward trend in wildlife reports over the last couple of years throughout Abbotsford, Mission, and Chilliwack. Wildlife reports are generated through the Wildlife Alert Reporting Program, also known as WARP. The Wildlife Alert Reporting Program is a program developed by WildSafe BC to enable the public to view reports regarding wildlife made to the BC Conservation Officer Service 24/7 call center. If the situation is not urgent, reports can also be made using the online form. These reports are updated daily to a publicly available georeference map. The public can also sign up for a free account and receive alerts that are tailored to their species and location of interest. Examples of reports may include sightings of bears, cougars, or coyotes in residential areas, near parks or schools, or in urban areas. Reports of bears, cougars, or coyotes acting aggressively, accessing human sources of food, attacking livestock or pets, or damaging structures, or wildlife in distress, which includes injured, sick, orphaned, entangled, or confined. The different colors represent different attractants. For example, one of the most common colors is red, which represents garbage as the attractant. This screenshot showcases reports made from January 1st, 2021 to November 10th, 2021 in the Fraser Valley. Door-to-door canvassing consists of putting door hangers on every house in areas of concern. Areas of concern are determined based on WARP, Conservation Officer Service requests, and complaints made by residents to either myself or municipality staff. Approximately 4,200 door hangers will be left at houses all throughout the Fraser Valley by the end of November, which is the end of the season. Areas of concern in Abbotsford include all of Sumas Mountain. Areas of concern in Chilliwack include Chilliwack Mountain, Marble Hill, and Eastern Hillside. Areas of concern in Mission include Williams Ave area and Badger Ave/14th Ave area. And areas of concern in electoral area F include the Hatzick Prairie area. On this slide are the areas where door hangers were implemented. In Abbotsford, 2,156 door hangers were left in areas outlined in blue. In Chilliwack, 1,126 door hangers were left. Areas outlined in green is where door hangers were implemented once, and areas outlined in orange is where door hangers were implemented twice. As you can see, areas of concern border or are right in the middle of green spaces. In Mission, 515 door hangers were left in areas outlined in red. And in electoral area F, 121 door hangers were left in areas outlined in purple. Garbage bin tagging is an educational activity performed by a WildSafe BC community coordinator. It consists of placing a highly visible and removable sticker on containers set curbside the day before collection or outside of times stated in local bylaws. WildSafe BC provides information on these bylaws, but does not enforce them or deliver fines. Garbage is the most reported attractant across the province that leads to conflict with black bears. It also leads to conflict with a variety of other wildlife, including coyotes, raccoons, skunks, rats, and more. In Abbotsford, 48 bins were tagged over one day, and in Mission, 51 bins were tagged over 3 days with the help of City of Mission summer students. On this slide is an example of the yellow WildSafe BC bin sticker, and beside it is an example of the City of Mission bin sticker. Beside the stickers are maps showcasing the areas covered while bin tagging. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, many events throughout the Fraser Valley were canceled or postponed. I worked with City of Mission summer students and local retail and grocery stores to facilitate hosting 5 display booths over the season. Locations included 3 booths outside of Canadian Tire and 2 booths outside of Save On Foods, both at the London Ave locations. These were successful in reaching 689 people. Members of the public were welcome to take a look at the display, ask questions, and take WildSafe BC brochures. Our WildSafe Ranger program stimulates discussion regarding wildlife and introduces students to the concept of human-wildlife conflict. Youth are encouraged to take an active role in reducing human-wildlife conflict at home by helping their families identify backyard wildlife attractants. In addition, students learn how to have a safe and respectful relationship with wildlife. Over the 2021 season, I will have led 34 presentations in Abbotsford, Mission, and Chilliwack, which will reach approximately 750 students. I have presented to numerous elementary schools. In Abbotsford, this includes 17 presentations at 5 schools. In Mission, this includes 10 presentations at 3 schools. And in Chilliwack, this includes 3 presentations at 1 school. I have also presented to other organizations, which include Ridge Wilderness Adventures Summer Camp in Abbotsford, the Great Blue Heron Nature Reserve Summer Camp in Chilliwack, and 2 groups of Beaver Scouts also in Chilliwack. At the end of the presentation, teachers would submit surveys regarding the information presented, age appropriateness, visual aids, and the student engagement. The presentations were well received by all, with most feedback being 5 out of 5. A testimonial from one teacher in Abbotsford states, "Jocelyn was great with the kids. She kept them engaged and her behavior management was spot on. I can't wait to have this presentation again next year. I even learned information as well." I gave a total of 1 wildlife awareness and safety presentation to Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada / Government of Canada to 25 field staff. The presentation was approximately 2 hours and prepared staff in the event they came across wildlife while in the field. The Wild Safe BC Fraser Valley Facebook page grew 10% from January 1st, 2021 to November 10th, 2021. In this same time frame, the Facebook page reached approximately 9,699 people. In preparation for display booths and events, I would post in numerous community groups on Facebook. Many of my posts were also shared by most municipality Facebook pages. In June, I submitted a news article to the Abbotsford News, the Chilliwack Progress, and the Mission City Record about the Wild Safe BC Fraser Valley program, which was well received and generated several emails which led to further education opportunities. In October, I wrote an article for Macaroni Kid Abbotsford titled Black Bear Safety. Macaroni Kid Abbotsford is a free resource for parents to find local family-friendly events and information in and around Abbotsford. BC Goes Wild is a campaign to celebrate wildlife in BC, and it occurs in September, which is typically the month when human-bear conflicts are at their highest in BC. In the third week of September, I hosted a nature scavenger hunt in collaboration with the City of Abbotsford. Prizes were generously donated from the City of Abbotsford and Wild Safe BC. People came from all over the Fraser Valley, and a total of 12 people participated. Participants thoroughly enjoyed the event and inquired if more events would happen again soon. Thank you to all the volunteers who helped with garbage bin tagging, display booths, and door-to-door canvassing this season. And thank you to all sponsors who made the 2021 season possible. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I will now open the floor to any questions.
Thank you, Jocelyn. And any questions through to Jocelyn? Okay, sure. I'll go with, I saw Director Facio, and then we'll go to Director Engar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Jocelyn, for your presentation. Very informative. We had quite a amount of sightings in our East Sector lands on Macooms this year of cougars and mostly black bears. Were you aware, was BC Wildlife aware of that at all? Because we don't get the hangers here, do we, or any of that, that paraphernalia?
Right. Through the chair to Director Facio. That's very interesting. A lot of the time I have to go off of what I get from conservation officers, from WARP, and then from residents. So if you would like to in the future reach out to me and say, you know, we're having a lot of bears or cougars in the area, I will immediately put that on my radar and say, yep, that's an area of concern. Because the area is so large, I do have to focus on the areas where I'm getting WARP reports, conservation officer reports, and then from municipality staff or from residents. So I can absolutely put that on my list. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Director Engar.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Jocelyn. That's excellent to hear your work. And I feel very strongly about protecting the wildlife. And I'm so glad that people like yourself are out there doing this kind of good work. I just one quick question. How do the COs actually input the data? For instance, my area, I know there's a number of bear sightings over the year, but it's not showing up in the map. So is there a loose connection there? Do they need assistance? How do we facilitate that and make it work a little better?
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Engar. That just depends on what the public is calling in or filling on the online form. So the WARP reports that the Conservation Officer Services get are from the public. So the public has to call and say either, you know, there was a bear sighting, there was a garbage attractant, maybe there was an injured wildlife. So all of what's on WARP is completely dependent on what residents are seeing. So it might just be that people maybe don't know about WARP in your area, and which is why a large part of my job is educating members on WARP and what it is, so that it can be used to help myself and also conservation officers.
Just to follow up then, the actual RAP line is not the way to contact to provide that data. It's through a WARP form, is that correct? I'm not sure where that is.
Through the chair to Director Engar, it's actually both. So you can call the RAP line, or you can make a request on the online form, which is also on the same website that the RAP line is on. You can fill out that online form and it will get sent to the conservation officers, or you can call. I personally like to call. I like to speak to an officer. I just find that it's a little bit easier, but you can also fill on the online form. It's essentially the same thing.
Right. So there's, when you're saying WARP, it doesn't have a separate form. You're talking about the CO or the NRO forms online.
Correct.
Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you for your good work again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. I don't see any other questions. So, oh, sorry, Director Horn, missed you there. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. So Jocelyn, I thank you for this presentation. And I should have asked this question when you were before Mission Council, but I forgot. I hear quite a few folks with what I think is misinformation about bears in hibernation, and particularly those who are going for hikes in the forest this time of the year, taking dogs off leash. So my understanding is that not all of the bears in our area hibernate. In some areas they do, in some areas they don't. And so I wondered first whether there's any resource available that sort of shows the common areas where people need to be bear aware when they're out hiking all year long. And secondly, if there's a resource for people who are out with their dogs. My understanding is that dogs can actually bring bears to people when they're out. So if there's resources like that, I don't know if other directors would be interested in sharing them, but I certainly would. And if you can point us to them, that would be helpful.
Through the chair to Director Horn. Yes, so especially in our area, bears don't necessarily go into hibernation or what's called torpor. It depends on where exactly the bears are, but because the Fraser Valley doesn't get very cold, that's not necessarily, bears don't necessarily have to hibernate. I don't know of a map that shows exactly where, but WildSafe BC does have a general rule of, in the Fraser Valley, always be bear aware all year. Doesn't matter what time of year, be bear aware, have your bear spray, watch for signs, and all of this is on our website. So that also does include what to do with your dogs. It's best to have your dog on a leash. A lot of the times if your dog is off leash and that dog runs ahead, which many dogs do, if it runs into a bear, that dog comes running back to you and it brings that bear or even a cougar or a coyote and it brings that animal back to you, which can be a dangerous situation. So we do have all of this information on the WildSafe BC website, and we have some great resources there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, let me just double check, make sure I don't see any other questions. Okay, well, thank you very much, Jocelyn, for your presentation this morning. And again, it's nice to hear about this this program, and nice to see how much work you're able to get done even under some challenging circumstances. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for having me.
Thank you. Next item, Ms. Kinnaman.
Thank you, Chair Lum. So the next item is 4.1. We have the draft Regional and Corporate Services Committee meeting minutes of October 14th, 2021.
So moved.
All right, it's moved by Director Facio, seconded by Director Stover. All in favor, opposed if any. Item carries. Next item.
Item 5.1 is a financial strategy update. It is an information item, but I know that Kelly Lonsborough is on the line if there were any questions.
Thank you. And any questions through to Ms. Lonsborough? Doesn't look like it. Okay, next item.
Next item is another finance item. It's 5.2, which is the FVRD investment policy revision, and there is a motion for your consideration.
Thank you. Let's get a mover in a second. It's moved by Director Popov, seconded by Director Horn. And discussion or questions? I don't.
Oh, I see in the boardroom we have Director Dickey waving his hand.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, I got boardroom people here. I only see. Okay, so I only see Directors Dickey and it looks like Director Raymond.
Raymond, that's correct.
Okay, is that who we have in the board today?
Yes,
Boardroom?
the two members in the boardroom. Yeah.
Perfect. Go ahead, Director Dickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see Jonathan's report talks about 6.5% growth in the investment portfolio in 2021 to date. I was curious as to where that 6.5% is coming from. I'm guessing that's increased due to requisitions from the municipalities? Because that seems like a pretty high percentage in today's market.
Thank you, Ms. Kinnaman, through you to your staff. I'm not sure.
Sure.
Who wants to answer.
I see Ms. Lonsborough, so I will turn it over to our CFO.
Okay, thank you. And to the chair, Director Dickey. Yes, that is correct. That's a figure over time. It's our growth in our cash balances, really as a result of the requisition increases. It doesn't mean we have excess cash to spend. It's on reserve for the future needs.
And this is a pretty, it's through the chair again, it is a pretty specific question, but you don't have an idea of what sort of a percentage we're realizing in our bonds and terms and GICs today?
We do. We do by investment category. And perhaps Jonathan would like to add specifically to that, but we do have a table in the report that talks about it. There are a number of different investments we have on the books at the moment. Jonathan, did you want to add anything specifically?
There's not really much specific on there. This year we have been there's been varying investment rates. Our bonds rates have sort of reduced a bit during the middle of the year, but we are seeing an increase in our bond and GIC rates coming to the end of the year. We are expecting better rates going into next year, according to our investment advisor as well. So we do have, so our investment rates are going up at this point. I don't really know what else to add on top of that.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. That's a pretty specific question for a report that really doesn't address that. So, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Director Dickey. Other questions? Okay, I don't see any, so I'll call the question. All in favor? Positive any? The item carries. Next item.
Next is 6.1.1. We have the Circular Economy Leadership Canada Partnership. There's a motion for your consideration.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Robb and seconded by Director Horn. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, the item carries. Next item.
6.2.1, we have the Fraser Valley Regional District Parks Regulations, Fees and Other Charges Amendment Bylaw number 1643.
So moved.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Facio, seconded by Director Popov. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Director Facio, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question to staff. Does this policy in regards to the, I'm assuming, memorial benches, is that to include all regional parks? And I'm referring to the sector from my perspective, obviously.
Yeah, through the chair to Director Facio, that's correct. But I do see that Mr. Urban has joined us on screen, so I'd be happy to have him add to that if he would like.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, through the chair to Director Facio, that's correct. These sector lands would be included as part of this memorial program.
That's great. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Director Facio. Any other questions? Director Horn, go ahead.
Thank you. I was happy to see that staff had in here a renewal period. Just wondered at the costing on that renewal period, are we building in at that 10-year window what we expect inflationary wise? And if not, what's the renewal? Is there an expected review timing on the policy?
Urban.
Yes, through the chair to Director Horn. Yeah, that is certainly a consideration. We know this year in particular, costs have been going up and we have to keep that in mind. 10 years out, it's hard to look that far ahead. I think the caveat here is this policy can be amended as we go forward, and it's our snapshot of what we think it will be in 10 years. But in 10 years, it may be a little different. We can adjust accordingly at that time.
So as a follow-up, Mr. Chair, a question through to Ms. Kinnaman, I suppose. And I wonder whether or not organizationally, if we were to put a clause in there that it is reviewed at some frequency, that would flag somewhere on somebody's computer, or would it be meaningless?
Through the chair to Director Horn, I think that that's probably unnecessary. Staff already do that kind of work in terms of review. And of course, this is the bylaw with the regulations and fees, not the policy with respect to the benches. So we regularly go through this bylaw on the fees, and so that would automatically be a trigger at any event.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any, item carries. Next item.
6.3.1, we have the Regional Growth Strategy Update Phase 2 Public Engagement Preliminary Results. This is an information item, but I do have Teresa Alexander here that would like to give you a little bit of an overview presentation on the RGS.
Perfect.
Good
So,
morning.
Alexander, morning.
Just sharing my screen here. Does it look good for everybody?
Yes.
Yes, awesome. So good morning. My name is Teresa Alexander. I am a planner with the Strategic Planning Department. Today, I will be going over phase 2 of public engagement for the FERD's updated regional growth strategy. I'll be sharing how we reached out to the public, who we ended up hearing from, and highlighting some of our preliminary findings. Engagement was primarily online using our new engagement site, Have Your Say FERD. And although engagement on the site has concluded, the public can still visit the project page. And as always, comments and feedback can be submitted to our team at any time. With assistance and expertise from our communications department, we reached out to the public using a variety of tools and methods. The use of social media was extremely useful in getting visitors to the project page. And I know many of you also helped us expand our reach by sharing posts and emails. So thank you for that. We advertised in all 5 local newspapers at the start of the project and later on to promote the launch of the survey. As well, we used the Alertable app to send a non-emergency notification, which also proved to be a successful way of reaching our target audience. Participants could engage with one of 4 engagement tools on the site, as well as by emailing us directly. They did need to register prior to engaging with a tool. And although this is a barrier to participation, registration does increase the quality of responses. It also allows us to provide project updates to participants and let them know about other projects they may want to provide input on. This was the first project on FERD Have Our Say, which prompted more than 400 registrations to the site. So engagement at a glance, almost 1,500 members of the public visited our project page. Almost 1,000 of them clicked on something, and 347 of them contributed to at least one engagement tool. Most participants lived within FERD boundaries. 73% lived in a municipality and 20% within electoral area. Visitors became both engaged and informed by reading content, visiting the FAQ page, or downloading a document. There were a total of 300 downloads performed by 201 visitors, including 180 downloads of the RGS. Discussion forums were designed to provide information and generate discussions related to the 8 RGS policy goals. The following 4 that are highlighted here were the most popular based on total number of visits as well as contributions. This suggests that these particular issues addressed by these RGS goals were perhaps of greater significance to participants, or at the very least were more relatable to them. Using the Tell Us Your Story tool, FERD residents described in detail why they moved to the region, what they love about living here, as well as what they found most frustrating. A great feature about the engagement platform is the ease in which we can perform an analysis of written contributions. Although participants did not directly reference the RGS goals, we were able to identify which RGS goals connected to their stories. And by identifying the RGS goals most often highlighted, we gain a bit of insight as to what is most meaningful, or at least top of mind for participants. A more complete analysis of written contributions to all the tools, including survey responses, will be included in a final report. The Rgs survey received the highest level of engagement of all the tools. Almost all engaged participants completed the survey. The survey was based on RGS topics and goals. We asked open-ended questions as well as closed questions. Participants could skip questions, which helps aid completion rates. Printed copies of the survey were available at our office, as well as the offices of member municipalities. We mailed a total of 3 surveys, hard copy surveys, and received all 3 back. Let's take a look at just some of the preliminary findings. So getting a better sense of who is represented in the survey results, 95% of survey respondents lived in the region, 61% resided within a member municipality, about a third in the electoral areas, 2% lived within a First Nation community within our region, and the remaining 6 said they lived outside the region. As you can see, there was representation from all FVRD member municipalities, as well as representation from each electoral area. The survey captured perspectives from all ages and life stages, which is largely similar to the region's population. We heard from residents who had lived in the region for quite some time, as well as those who had only lived here a few years. Respondents were asked to identify the reasons they lived in the region. Respondents provided as few as 1 reason, as many as 7, and an average of 3 reasons as to why they live here. Access to outdoor recreation and natural areas was the most frequently cited region, followed by quality of life or work-life balance and housing affordability, selection, or availability. 75% of respondents said they expected to remain living in the FVRD, and those who did not see themselves continuing to live here, we asked them, given the same list, to identify the reasons which might cause them to leave. In this graph, green represents the reasons respondents said they lived here, and the reasons respondents said they may leave is in blue. Housing, quality of life, and employment opportunities were most common reasons participants said they may leave the region. And as you can see, the reasons respondents said they lived here was often the same as reasons respondents said they might leave. There's a bit of a push and pull. For example, housing conditions likely associated with cost or affordability was a reason many respondents said they lived in the region, but it was also noted by many as the reasons they may end up leaving. Being near family and friends, as well as rural character, were also considered to be considerable motivators. Housing, despite 80% of respondents being homeowners, many expressed a great deal of concern about the cost of owning a home, as well as the cost of renting. Respondents had considerable concern for homeless populations, as well as concerns related to adequate housing for seniors and families. When asked if they had been personally impacted by housing conditions, 64% of respondents said yes. And most of those responses were connected to cost or affordability of both owning a home as well as renting. 17% of responses to the above question described the housing challenges experienced by their adult children or an aging parent, and this often had a direct impact to them financially or and also impacting their own living arrangements. Respondents reported using 1 to 4 modes of transportation. However, half used just 1 mode. Not surprisingly, most respondents relied on a personal vehicle to get around, and few reported using public transit. 15% said they drove an electric vehicle, and about half of those who said they did not currently drive an electric vehicle indicated they were somewhat or very likely to do so in the future. Despite their reliance on driving, when asked what transportation systems should be prioritized, respondents were most likely to say public transit. Respondents' improvements related to current bus systems for local and interregional travel, as well as there was definitely a strong desire for rapid transit. Responses that related to driving included the expanding of the highway, the need to address traffic issues in general, our over-reliance on cars, and the desire for more charging stations. 72% of all respondents did work in a variety of fields and largely within the region. Only 16% of respondents who lived in the FERD worked outside the region. 36% said that they worked from home at least some of the time, and they were more likely to work from home if their employer was outside the region. This might be attributed to temporary accommodations related to the pandemic. However, remote work was also cited when we asked about how the future of work might change for them. It seems it might be easier to find and secure suitable work in the region than it is to find suitable employees. However, 29% of respondents said they were unable to find suitable employment in the region. Survey respondents expressed an appreciation and a desire to protect natural areas, as well as the character and lifestyle associated with living in rural areas. About 90% of respondents felt that past and future population growth in the Lower Mainland had impacts to both outdoor recreation in the region and life in rural areas. Respondents were more likely to share concerns about the health and protection of the environment than housing or transportation issues. It was something they could all largely agree on. Improved air quality was a top priority among residents. Pollution from cars, made worse by slow moving traffic, as well as forest fires, were often noted when commenting on air quality. Climate change was also a top priority, which often had negative impacts on respondents' outlook on the future. Improved drinking water was considered just as important as climate change, and the need to improve and protect local rivers, streams, and lakes was definitely a top priority. Not surprisingly, considering natural areas were highlighted as being of great importance to respondents earlier in the survey. An in-depth analysis of the engagement data is currently underway. However, we are too excited to share some of our results, so we're sharing with you today. The results, as well as its relevance to the RGS, will be shared in greater detail in a final engagement report. And in the meantime, we are happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. That's a great report. It's a good kind of refresher on the whole process. So it's nice to see, and good to see all the work that's been gone into it from the planning side of the house. Any questions through to Teresa? Go ahead, Director Engar.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that presentation, Ms. Alexander. Very interesting. Just to give me the summary, if you wouldn't mind, you've been looking at this data for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a sort of 1, 2, 3 takeaway that jump into your front list that you could share with us?
Well, definitely top of mind, through to the chair, Director Engar. Top of mind, housing is a concern for everybody, even those who own their home. People in the region care deeply about the environment. As well, work is changing. And so I think people feel impacted now and are thinking about work in the future. If I had to say 3 things.
No, very good. Well, thanks for that feedback. And I'll look forward to we have an opportunity to see the more in-depth analysis when it comes out. I'd really like to see that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Engar. Other questions? Director Horn, go ahead.
Yes, and this is a question that I don't expect an answer to today, but I'm interested in any lessons we may have learned from the Have Your Say platform. As I listened to your first numbers about how many people clicked and how many people went further and then how many people actually answered, I'm wondering whether we can compare it against other sort of in-person engagements and see what we can do to constantly improve that process. If you have thoughts now, I'd be happy to hear them, but even at some future date.
Through the chair to Director Horn. Yeah, I'm keeping some notes as to what we've learned. I think it's a great tool. I think it was successful. I love the data that it can provide. And that data helps us decide where our efforts are most successful and where we need to improve. So yes, we'll include that data and learnings, I'm sure, in our report. Thanks.
Thank you. Other questions? I don't see any. So thank you again. Good presentation. Looking forward to the final report. Ms. Kidman, next item.
Next item is 6.3.2. We have the Fraser Valley Regional District Transit Services Update 3-year transit expansion initiatives, and there is a motion for the committee's consideration.
Thank you. Mover and a seconder. It's moved by Director Pranger, seconded by Director Engar. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, go ahead, Director Pranger, sorry.
Just a couple of questions or comments. Is the date for is that the date that was originally planned for the expansion of transit on the north side of the river, 2024, 2025?
I think it was delayed a bit, but Ms. Kinnaman or Ms. Stewart, I see.
Ms. Stewart, I think, can take that.
Yeah, that's a target date to get the service moving. COVID has definitely had an impact on the planning of that, but also the facility challenges at Chilliwack has a role to play on when that service would become available. But we wanted to make sure that it was definitely still on the books and that it is a priority of the board to move forward with that going forward.
Thank you. That is an item that has been brought up many times on from constituents who not just live in Kent, but live along the north side, Desroches and all of those areas which don't have any transit services at all anymore. The other item that I was really pleased to see was that ridership on the Agassiz Harrison Route 11 was 87% post-pandemic. So I'm really happy to see that picking up again. Thank you.
Great, and don't see any other questions. So we'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
Next item is 6.3.3. We have the FVRD Transit Future Action Plan, Chapter 6, Fraser Valley Express. Again, there's a motion for your consideration.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Ross, seconded by Director Popov. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
Moving down to reports by staff, I just wanted to introduce our newest staff member. We're really excited to introduce Lauren Olenek to you. She is our Deputy Corporate Officer working in our Legislative Services Department with Jamie Van Ness. Lauren comes to us from the city of Abbotsford, where I understand she worked for 11 years. So we're very sorry, Abbotsford, that you lost such a great employee, but we are delighted that she has joined us.
I don't see her.
I do see, oh, I don't know if
yeah.
has,
I just wanted to jump in and say welcome to Lauren too. We are set to lose her at City of Abbotsford. She was amazing, but if we had to lose her to anyone, I'm so glad that we got her here at FVRD.
You know what? It's about time we reversed the coaching here. So it's great. Anyways, welcome, Lauren. Next item.
Next item is reports by directors.
Thank you, directors, for your opportunity. If there's any reports. Oh, there we go. Director Engar, go ahead.
Not really a report, but I'd just like to say that that last bit of research around the Fraser Valley and what people are doing and how they want to see things change really reinforces the need for us to look closely at how we can accommodate more people in the existing amount of homes that are there. For instance, I've long advocated for in-law suites in homes and making the existing facilities somehow work. We're slowly moving towards those things, but I think we're definitely in need of more housing for people and an aging population. There are some solutions, and I look forward to looking into those solutions more and helping them implement them. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Engar. Any other reports from board members? Director Facio, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to an update that our new trail from on McCombs all the way to the east sector lands and beyond is now completed. We just have some benches and no parking signs to go on. Also a crosswalk with flashing lights at one end. So that'll make it very safe for residents and visitors with no intersections to worry about, to walk all the way. Actually, you could walk from Hot Springs Road through the back of the greenways behind the homes all the way to McPherson. So it's a plus. It was a grant we received, and it's been well received. And on the 20th of November is the start of the big light up in Harrison. So come over with your families or friends and come and enjoy the lights and whatever else we have to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Facio. And any other reports from board members? Don't see any. So next item is Kinnaman.
And now we move to public question period for items relevant to the agenda. I will just turn things over to the boardroom as Jamie Van Ness is there, as you can see, with a couple of our committee members who are masked. I'm not sure if we have members of the public in the boardroom or on the line.
Good morning. I'm joining you from the boardroom, and we do indeed have two members of our two directors in the boardroom with us today, but we do not have any members of the public. We do have two members of the public joining us on Zoom. Particularly, I see one member of the public does have their hand raised. It does appear that they have a question relevant to items on the agenda.
Okay, and I don't see that, so I'm not sure who I'm.
That's okay, Mr. Chair. This is a telephone caller. We don't have a name, but I'm just going to unmute this person. And again, it would be their opportunity to ask a question relevant to the agenda.
Sure, go ahead.
So they can go ahead and unmute themselves.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, my name is Nathan Davidovich, and I sent you an email about the transit services. I think it was a couple of days ago. I'm not sure if you got it or.
Mr. Davidovich, are you the gentleman who sent an email about Gloucester?
I sent an email about the transit services reports that you just approved.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have a specific question you'd like regarding that?
It was sent at on the 9th of November at 7:53 a.m.
Okay.
Well, the question is like right now, there is really bad service because many bus trips are canceled because of bad management and the lack of drivers. But that's going to continue on when the drivers can get a job in Vancouver at $3 an hour extra than in the Fraser Valley. So I don't know about March of 2022. There is no guarantee that they're going to have the number of drivers needed to operate the extra service, especially if they are paying them less than other drivers are getting. But the main thing of my letter was asking you to support ordering 1,000 electric new buses, extra buses by the BC government as soon as possible, because Quebec just ordered 2,148 electric buses, and BC by population should order at least 1,000. And that's the main focus is in order to get transit services, we need the vehicles and the garages as well. And we can use the garages. I'm sure the city of Chilliwack can use part of their workyard to help transit park the garages there, you know. So that's my main points.
Okay, well, both good points, and I'm sorry I haven't seen your email yet, but certainly we continue to advocate for the investments in transit. We're not the only partner on the transit side. Of course, you know that BC Transit is the operator, and they have a contractor that they subcontract to operating the transit side. We split the service with them and cost share in it. So any decisions around the operating side of the house needs to be worked on with the transit operator and with BC Transit as a partner. I think your point on working to electrify the transit system is very valid. It's a trend that's not going away. It's going to be the future of what we see in public transit, and for a whole host of reasons, it makes a lot of sense. And it's a good point that you made around there being some federal money available for that. And you also pointed out some of the constraints around the garages and maintenance areas. And I think Ms. Stewart made a point on that earlier, where we have, that's one of the things that's really holding us back. And of course, we're bursting at the seams in Chilliwack in our operations and maintenance yards already, but we're turning over every stone we possibly can to try and find space for these buses, because we do, like you, recognize that is a constraint. But I haven't seen your letter yet, but I will look for it, and I'll definitely talk to staff about it and take it under consideration. I just appreciate you taking the opportunity to call in today. Thanks, Ms. Kenneman. Any other questions?
No, we do not have any further members of the public on the line, so we can move to the next item.
Thank you.
So the next item would be a resolution to close the meeting, Chair Lum.
Thank you. Moved by Director Facio, second by Director Enger. All in favor, opposed if any. The item carries. We'll give you a second to
Thank you.